Hi everyone, I'm Calluna, and welcome back to another Game of Thrones episode of I See What You Did There. It's nearly time for the beginning of Season 6, counting down the days. So, it's time for me to get back on track of discussing the rest of the Stark family. With a lot of our Dance with Dragons storyline coming up this season, who better to talk about next than everyone's favorite sword-wielding girl? Okay, everyone's other favorite sword-wielding girl, Arya Stark. As per Stark tradition, Arya continues to deal with one terrible tragedy after another, from her father's execution to the slaughter of the rest of her family by traitorous dickheads. It's no wonder Arya has a death list. What I'll be discussing in this episode is Arya's connection to her direwolf Nymeria, the way in which Arya struggles with identity, and some possible predictions for her future in the series. Now, Arya's storyline in the TV series hasn't completely caught up to her book self, so a fair warning, this will definitely contain spoilers for the first 5 seasons of the show, as well as most likely spoiling a good amount of what is to come this season. Of course, as we've seen with other characters, the show doesn't always follow exactly what happens in the books, so who knows. In any case, you've been warned. And with that, let's begin. Like her sister Sansa, Arya's connection to her direwolf is painted pretty clear in the beginning of the first book and season. After Joffrey threatens Arya, Nymeria bites him, which later forces Arya to say goodbye to her pet and force her to run away. Unfortunately, this results in Sansa's wolf Lady being forced to take the blame and killed instead, creating a rift between the already tumultuous relationship between Sansa and Arya. This is mirrored at the end of the book when Ned is imprisoned and later beheaded. Sansa is taken prisoner as the Lannisters, separated from her family, and Arya, through the help of Syrio Forel and Yoren, manages to escape King's Landing before Cersei is able to capture her. Nymeria's personality and behavior echoes Arya's. While in Winterfell, Nymeria is obedient to Arya's commands for the most part, and behaves relatively properly for a direwolf. Arya herself, though she often tries to get out of more girly chores, does listen to her parents and overall is a good daughter. As Nymeria grows in the wild, the readers get a glimpse of how strong and powerful Nymeria is getting. Around the God's Eye, the packs have grown bolder than anyone can remember. They kill as they like, and they got no fear of men. The one that leads them is a she-wolf, a bitch from the 7th hell. A Clash of Kings. Armed men in mail and boiled leather, and yet the beast had no fear of them. Before he died, Jate said the pack was led by a she-wolf of monstrous size, a direwolf to hear him tell it. A feast for crows. Just as Nymeria is becoming more savage and bloodthirsty, so is Arya. She creates a list of people she intends to kill, people who have hurt her or her family in some way. At first, her kills are more accidental and more likely self-defense. The stable boy who would have gotten her caught, some soldiers who attacked Yoren and her group on the way to the wall, and a Bolton guard at Harrenhal. But as the story progresses, Arya takes more pleasure in her revenge, getting caught up in her kills, such as her repeatedly stabbing the Tickler over and over while barraging him with the questions he had been asking his torture victims. It's only when the Hound pulls her off him does she stop. Her hands were red and sticky when Sandor dragged her off him. "Enough," was all he said. He was bleeding like a butchered pig himself, and dragging one leg when he walked. A storm of swords. Arya's most erratic and wild behavior stems from her need for revenge. Most of the wrongs in her life have had some kind of connection back to her family or heritage. Losing Nymeria, watching her father's execution, being unable to save Robb and Catelyn from the frays at the Red Wedding. Nymeria's behavior gives us an idea of what Arya might become if she continues down that path of revenge. It is only when Arya arrives in Braavos that her need to kill begins to change. The Faceless Man's ways are not out of revenge or personal heartache, and if Arya wishes to become a Faceless Man, then she needs to let go and become no one. Names play a significant role in the world of Game of Thrones, whether it is who is of a noble house and who is a bastard, whether it is someone named for another, or what someone may be hiding behind a name. Arya's relationship with names and what they mean to her tie back all the way to when she first names her direwolf. Arya had named her after the warrior queen of the Rhoyne, who had led her people across the narrow sea. That had been a great scandal, too. Sansa, of course, had named her pup Lady. A Game of Thrones. That tells you all you need to know about Arya's personality. She does not fit into the tight constraints of a noblewoman, and would much rather handle a sword than a thread and needle. Nymeria, the queen, is what Arya aspires to be, someone who is of a noble house but is able to wield power as well as any man. This is further emphasized when she scoffs at Sansa's name for her direwolf. Throughout the course of the series, Arya goes by many names. Some she chooses for herself, while others are given to her. Arya Horseface, Arya Underfoot, Airy, Lumpy Face, Lumpy Head, Stick Boy, Weasel, Nymeria, Nan, Squab, Salty, Cat of the Canals, Beth, Blind Girl, Ugly Little Girl, Mercedine, Mercy, No One. Most of these are names that Arya is either called as an insult or she uses to hide her true identity. It isn't until she begins her training with the Faceless Men that Arya actually tries to shed the identities rather than merely hiding behind a false one. The most significant changes, the times when Arya is really beginning to delve deep into herself, are reflected in the name changes for her chapters. All of her chapters use the name Arya until A Feast for Crows, when it is changed to Cat of the Canals, the identity she first assumes in her training to be a Faceless Man. The other names that the book uses for her chapters are Blind Girl, Ugly Little Girl, and Mercy. George R. R. Martin has discussed why he uses the different names for the various chapters. When you're dealing with Arya and what she's going through, or you're dealing with Theon, you're dealing with something much, much deeper there, where the original identity is being threatened or kind of broken down by one means or another, and maybe is in danger of being lost entirely. George R. R. Martin. So, despite all the names that Arya has gone by in the past, the ones where the chapter names are different are when she is actively changing the way she views herself. Although Arya desires to be a Faceless Man and shed her life as Arya Stark, she continues to have dreams about it, particularly ones where she wargs into Nymeria. She comments that it isn't her, though. She is trying to separate the identity. "I should not be dreaming wolf dreams," the girl told herself. "I am a cat now, not a wolf. I am Cat of the Canals. The wolf dreams belong to Arya of House Stark." Try as she might, though, she could not rid herself of Arya. A Feast for Crows. Arya struggles with this throughout Feast for Crows and Dance of Dragons. The kindly old man often reminds her of this. "You have taken other names, but you wore them as lightly as you might wear a gown. Under them was always Arya Stark." A Feast for Crows. Arya even refuses to give up Needle because of what it represents to her. Needle was Robb and Bran and Rickon, her mother and her father, even Sansa. Needle was Winterfell's grey walls and the laughter of its people. Needle was the summer snows, Old Nan's stories, the heart tree with its red leaves and scary face, the warm, earthy smell of the glass gardens, the sound of the north wind rattling the shutters of her room. Needle was Jon Snow's smile. A Feast for Crows. Although Arya becomes more comfortable with breaking away that identity of Arya, becoming more comfortable in her lies, she still has not thrown away Needle. Instead, she has hidden the sword where she believes no one else will find it. This has a huge significance on the way that she views herself. She's placing all of her identity as Arya Stark onto the sword that Jon crafted for her. And although she has definitely improved on her ability to be someone else, it is difficult to say whether she can entirely become no one. I'm interested to see what this new season will show for Arya's character. There's only a small portion of her story left to go from the books, and here are definitely major spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the portions of Winds of Winter George R. R. Martin has written, as well as upcoming spoilers for Season 6. Arya manages to recover from her blindness and successfully completes her first kill ordered to her. She is then given a new face and goes under the name Mercy. Mercy is an actor for a troupe of mummers, playing a maid who is to be raped and murdered by a dwarf, the play being a skewed version of the events of Westeros, so it's probable she is playing a version of her sister Sansa. She spots Raff the Sweetling in the crowd, seduces him, and manages to kill him. We've already seen this scene in 2 different capacities in the show. Arya killing Polliver in the same way he killed Lamy, and her abandoning her mission to stalk and kill Ser Meryn. Arya's thirst for vengeance makes her lose any focus that she has on becoming a Faceless Man. This primal need to kill drives her and prevents her from completely encompassing herself in a new identity. The Mercy chapter shows that despite her continued dreams, she really does seem to have immersed herself in this new part. However, the moment something from her past confronts her, she cannot escape it. The wolf dreams are her main link back to her identity as Arya. It's the one place where she cannot control her identity, her subconscious. Whether it is Arya herself or Nymeria's link calling out to her, Arya continues to have a piece of herself with her, always. Arya's purpose for becoming a Faceless Man comes from her need to seek out vengeance. She wants to have the skills to take down those who she believes has wronged her. However, Arya still can't see that she cannot become a Faceless Man without abandoning that vengeance. She continues to believe that she is tricking the kindly old man, and that she will do just whatever she can. Eventually, something has to give, and I think it comes down to Needle. Arya will have to make a difficult choice in the near future. She has to destroy Needle to fully complete her transformation into a Faceless Man. If she can't, then will she return to Westeros? Arya's struggle with identity is by no means the only time George R. R. Martin plays around with identity. It's actually something that numerous characters are dealing with, and as the books progress, one common thing exists amongst all these characters. They all start out in one place, knowing who they are and what they can accomplish, only for that to be changed radically in some capacity. What is it that makes us who we are? Is it our birth, our blood, our position in the world? Or something more integral to us, our values, our memories, etc.? George R. R. Martin. Ultimately, Nymeria, like Lady and Greywind, serves as a physical representation of their owner's connection to their Stark heritage. Arya's warg dreams are a constant reminder that she is a Stark, and that no matter what she calls herself, Nymeria is always there to prove her wrong. Nymeria has taken on the qualities of the queen she was named for, becoming the leader for her large wolf pack. Perhaps Arya will be able to handle that kind of responsibility, maybe not. It all depends on whether she chooses to accept her Stark nature or abandon it entirely. I'd like to think of Arya as almost a prodigal daughter. She needs to wander and find herself at her lowest point before she returns back home. I don't think she will ever give that up, but hey, who knows? So I hope you guys enjoyed my latest analysis of the Stark children. What do you guys think will end up happening to Arya by the end of the series? Will she finish her training successfully, or will she return to Westeros? What fate lies in wait for her? Post your comments below to let me know what you think will happen to Arya. As always, thank you for joining me on my latest Game of Thrones edition of I See What You Did There. Bye!